back to my kitchen. What do all of these ingredients have in common? There's a lot of them. They're gonna make one heck of a first birthday party cake. We're gonna make this cake and we're gonna be doing it with all this stuff. It's gonna be a process that's gonna take a couple of days. So we're gonna film the whole thing for you and show you what goes into making an actual stacked bakery quality, beautiful specialty birthday cake. Let's get started. Introduced her before. This is my cousin Ashley, and it is her little girl who's having her first birthday on the weekend. So the first thing we're going to start with is our cake release. So we've combined 1/3 cup of canola oil, 1/3 cup of vegetable shortening, and 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour. And we've mixed it until it's basically smooth. A few lumps remain, but that's not a big deal. And that is going to go in our pans. We are doing 10-inch round and a 6-inch round. And this is just taking the place of your baking spray. It's a little bit more reliable than using like a pan baking spray. So Ashley, if you want to just take kind of a blob there and just rub it around on the inside and bottom of both of those pans. And be fairly generous with it. You don't have too much, then have your cake stick. Okay, so in terms of special equipment, so these are specialized cake pans. They're from Wilton. They are 3 inches deep. I like them because they do get more height and they're heavy bottomed. And Ashley's coated them with our cake goop, so nothing is going to stick. We've got our 10-inch, we've got our 6-inch. We've got a couple of stainless steel bowls for mixing and sifting our various ingredients. Something else that's really good to have if you're doing a project like this are these things. These are called cake bands, and they have been soaking in water. Get them at the bulk barn or from any specialty cooking store. You wrap these around your cake pan before it goes in the oven, and it prevents your cake from doming up when you bake it, because the water that you soak these in keeps the outside cooking at the same rate as the inside of the cake. So those are a great thing to have, and we've got those soaking in some water. And then over here, we've got a few little tools to manipulate our cakes after they come out of the oven, and also to help us get our really sharp edges on our icing when it comes time to frost it. We've also got a selection of offset spatulas, which are very handy if you're trying to get nice crisp frosting edges. And of course some dowel rods, because this is a stacked cake, so you need something to give the inside of your cake structure before you go moving it or trying to transport it. And then somewhere in this mess there's also a couple of foil covered cake rounds. So that being said, let's get our cake made. Okay, so Ashley has sifted together our dry ingredients, which is some baking powder, some sugar, some all-purpose flour, a little bit of. She's going to do our wet ingredients, which is 4 eggs, some milk. You can use this bowl right here, Ashley, if you want to combine the wet ingredients in there. So 8 ounces of milk, some eggs. We're going to add 2 ounces of vegetable oil to that. And then we are going to use our hand mixer, and we're going to mix it until it's well combined.
Nice company.
I know, kitchen helpers. So a lot of recipes call for using cake and pastry flour. This one, because you're using all-purpose flour, gives you a little bit denser cake, which is good if you're going to be stacking and carving and slicing and filling. So that's why we're using this recipe. Okay, so you can see our cake is looking perfectly smooth, and it's a beautiful glossy batter, and everything is really well incorporated. So now we're going to get it into our pan, and then we're going to go through the same process to make another batch of cake to fill our other cake. Okay, our cake is in the pan. It's been smoothed out with an offset spatula, and now it's going into a 375-degree oven, middle rack, for probably 35 to 45 minutes, or until a knife inserted in the center comes out clean. Okay, so we are going to work on our frosting for our cakes while they are baking. Best buttercream frosting recipe ever. Very, very simple. 1 cup of unsalted butter, 1 cup of vegetable shortening, an entire 1 kilogram bag of icing sugar, which has been sifted to get the lumps out, vanilla to taste, and a little bit of milk to loosen it up a bit. We're going to start by creaming together our butter and our shortening until they're light and buttery yellow and fluffy. So it's best if you can do this with stuff that's at room temperature because it comes together a lot faster and you don't get the lumps. Because you definitely don't want lumps in your frosting when you're trying to put it on your cake. Okay, so everything's mixed up nice and creamy in here. There's no more lumps. We are just going to start adding our icing sugar by the half cup with the mixer on low, otherwise you will get it everywhere. So Ashley, if you want to start, I'm just going to put my guard on here, okay? So just kind of down into the hopper here. I know, it's awkward. Keep it easy. Maybe you'll find it easier, but I make a huge mess when I do it. There we go. And just give it a minute or two to, or 30 seconds even, just to kind of combine what's in there. That way you don't get your lumps. And it's going to turn a very pretty light buttery yellow, but we are going to counteract the color with some white food color. Here we have our frosting. Everything has been added, our sugar, our vanilla, a little bit of milk, just to make it consistency that's going to be easy to use, our butter and our shortening. We are going to now pop it into a container so that it's ready for when we do the crumb coat on our cakes. Okay, so much baking and waiting later. This is what we ended up with. This is our 6-inch round cake, and it came out beautifully. It's golden brown. It's nice and flat on the top, as you can see. And the sides have a little bit of a curve to them. That's totally fine because we're going to be trimming the sides once it's fully cooled. We're going to put it in the freezer, wrap it in some plastic, because it's much easier to carve when it's slightly frozen. So that's our 6-inch. Took about 45 minutes for that to cook up, and it's a good solid 3 inches in depth, which is going to give us a really nice tall layer by the time we frost it. Over here, and there's my dog in the background, of course, having to go out now that I'm doing this. Over here is our 10-inch round, and again, it looks really good. Came out nice and flat, golden brown. It's beautiful. You can see there's a little bit of, there was a little tiny spot there where the cake goop, I guess it wasn't thoroughly enough on the one side. But again, we're going to be trimming perfectly around this, and any kind of imperfection like that is going to be hidden with the crumb coat. It's going to be perfectly straight and beautiful once we frost it and fill it, and so that is tomorrow's project. So we'll see you then.